Welcome to Combat Sports Talk, a podcast dedicated to UFC and Bellator discussion, the MMA community, and combat sports in general. I'm your host, Ryan Smith, and the man who prefers hockey brawls to UFC fights is my co-host, KC Onyebuchi.
Sadly, that was kind of true this weekend. But in my defense, go Blues, even though they lost. All they had to do was tie, and they lost. Way to go.
Oh, so they're out of the playoffs?
They are. But I got to, I got to witness the Avalanche do not suck, so that was good.
So how did you get to be a St. Louis Blues? Oh, this is because you went to college in Missouri, right?
This is. But I'm first and foremost a Dallas Stars fan. Like, go Stars. But, I mean, with all my Missouri friends in town, when I spent a little bit of time in Denver because, I split time back and forth.
Yep.
So my Denver crew mostly is my college buddies from St. Louis and Kansas City. So, get a little Blues action in there. And a Royals fan.
All right. Plus, it works out. The Kansas City Royals, their hat says KC on it.
That works out quite well for me. In fact, that's part of our new merchandising. Can we add that to the Combat Sports Talk? Add that to our merchandise site.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk about that at the end of the show. This fight card, UFC 223, was marred by injury. All of them unrelated to training for the fight.
No way.
Yes way. But it did not disappoint. We crowned a new champion, and we saw some of the most exciting matches of the year. Now, we don't normally cover all the fights on the main card, but UFC 223 is different. All of them were exciting.
Well, kind of gives credence to Dana White's notion that this is one of the best cards in all UFC history.
You know what? I don't know if I can go back as far and say it's
since UFC 1.
Since UFC 1 and say that this is the best card in UFC history, because the pay-per-view buys didn't necessarily stack up to, some of the biggest ones in UFC history. But I will say that if we had a top 10, it could come in at number, in the latter half, 6 through 10 for sure.
All right, let's go through the action.
All right, well, let's do that with the official decision. The official decision. This is The Official Decision, a segment where we recap the fights that matter and discuss the ramifications of the action on Friday and Saturday night. When I say Friday night, you know what that means. It was a Bellator night.
For Bellator.
Bellator 196.
Honestly, Bellator has been kind of hit or miss, but you never know. You can get a good card out of Bellator.
Yeah, I don't know that we got a good one out of them, but they did have Benson Smooth Henderson fighting Roger Huerta in the main event of Bellator 196, coming to you from Budapest, Hungary.
Yeah, that was an interesting venue.
I know, man. That was an interesting, and it's much better than Uncasville, Connecticut.
It's also where a lot of outsourcing is going. Nope. Let's go ahead.
Yeah. I don't know where you're going there. Benson Henderson defeated Roger Huerta via submission in a guillotine choke with 49 seconds in round 2.
Did you have that for Henderson, though? Did you think that was what was going to go down?
No. Henderson, I tell you, he has been struggling in Bellator. His UFC career, he had a lot of fights that ended in very close decisions. So yeah. I was thinking it would probably be a decision, but I'm surprised he finished it by submission. So good on you. Good on you, mate.
Back. Good on you, mate.
So Benson Henderson, finally, I don't know if he's been getting a lot of flack for not winning in Bellator, but he got a win this time. So I'm happy for Benson Henderson. Hey, guess what? UFC 223, Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York, also happened on Saturday night.
No sleep till Brooklyn. How did we not? I should have had the audio queued up for that. That's on me.
Yeah. That would have been a good intro.
Remix. This is the acoustic version.
Yeah, and the great thing about it is Conor McGregor
Is that the great thing about it?
No, just that is the ultimate of no sleep till Brooklyn. Chartering a flight with 20 people from Dublin to Brooklyn to wreck up media day on UFC 223. That's the epitome of the Beastie Boys. No sleep till Brooklyn.
My goodness, I'm glad we got that intermediate show in to just kind of talk through the craziness that was the Conor incident.
Yeah, the one thing is that now that we've gotten more details and more accounts of what actually happened, going back and listening to the show, I have to say that was an initial reaction of learning of the event that day. Like, we did it happened earlier that day. We did that recording that night. So we learned a lot more things as time progressed about what actually happened and I've got some great stuff for you actually in the Finding the Angle segment.
All right. Let's dust off this old fight card real quick.
Yeah. So, like I said before, we don't normally cover all the fights on the main card, but this week we really need to. Chris Gruetzemacher defeated Joe Lauzon via TKO corner stoppage. They threw in the towel, man. They threw in the towel. I know someone else who had the towel thrown in for them. What was that like, having someone else quit for you?
It allowed me to maintain this theory that I've never quit in life.
You know what? That's
my corners quit for me.
That's right.
There's no shame in that, man. Come on.
It is realistic to say that you weren't defeated, that your corner quit on you.
They quit on me. I was willing to die in that ring. Like, hey, I came here to lay it all on the line.
Yeah, and someone else said nope.
Not today.
Not today. Well, let me just say, I thought Joe Lauzon, because both of them were coming off two fight losing streaks. Chris Gruetzemacher had lost both of his fights via submission, and Joe Lauzon is a submission specialist. So my prediction on this fight was that Joe Lauzon was going to come in there, take Chris Gruetzemacher down, and submit this guy. And that didn't happen. Joe Lauzon got punched in the face early and often. Both of his eyes were shut, and his corner said,
"Oh yeah, I saw the picture
enough."
on that. That's not a good look. That is not a good look."
So after the bell rang on round 2, they just waved it off and said, "We're done." So my question for you: this is the third loss in a row for Joe Lauzon. This one was a pretty brutal one. What's next for him?
I haven't the foggiest. Like, you'd think that when fighters start slipping that there's some questions about it, but the UFC is kind of finicky on whether or not they keep fighters around and how they place them in the rankings. So it's kind of up to the UFC gods at this point. When it's hard to say what's next.
Yeah, outside of a just a brutal knockout, I think that they'll keep him around. I mean, remember, this guy is tied for number 1 with the most post-fight bonuses. Like, this guy finishes people, puts on good fights, so he gets on fight of the night performance bonuses, submission of the night performance bonuses. He's a fan favorite. Everybody loves Joe Lauzon. So the fact that he's on a 3-fight losing streak, for a normal fighter would probably get them cut from the UFC. But for him, I think they'll keep him around until he starts taking those Chuck Liddell Iceman knockouts, and they'll be like, okay, my man, it's time for you to go.
But then he gets to come back when he turns 50.
Yeah, just I guess so, but not at the UFC.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right, another name that's on my list of fun names to say was Fight of the Night, Zabit Magomedsharipov.
Oh, say that one more time.
Magomedsharipov.
Oh, dude, that's magnificent.
Thank you so much. That is like a 15-letter word or something around there.
Right?
Magomedsharipov.
I feel better about my last name right now.
That's right. He defeated Kyle Bochniak via unanimous decision. This fight went the distance. It was something to watch.
Short notice fights, you just never know what happens.
No, this was not a short notice fight. They were on the undercard.
Undercard. Gotcha.
And so because everybody fell out because of Conor McGregor's idiocy, they had to replace some of the prelims into the main card. And this one, hindsight being 2020, probably should have been a main card fight. It's kind of like that Sugar Sean O'Malley a couple of weeks ago, where it's a guy who's not ranked comes in there and puts on a show.
Yeah, that's honestly though, that's a good thing though. If they can have some undercard level fighters who are putting on shows like that bodes well for the long term success. Because I always crap on the UFC for not having a great roster, and to have guys who are fighting the undercard being able to put together a show, that's solid stuff.
Well, Zabit Magomedsharipov is part of the Khabib Nurmagomedov Dagestani gangster crew. And so this guy, he's pretty much a freak of nature, if you think about it. He's fighting at 145 pounds, so he's fighting at featherweight. This guy is 6'2", fighting at 145.
6'2" at 145? Good golly.
So, it's he's a freak of nature. He's got this reach. He's got this speed. He's got the technique. He's quite the. I'm telling you,
someone that's tough to game plan for.
Yeah, there's not a lot of 6'2", 245-pound crazy fighters out there. So yeah, I mean, this is akin to trying to train for Dominic Cruz or someone like that, or John Jones. You just can't.
Or KC.
You can't simulate them. I guess, if KC stands for something other than you, but so Kyle Bochniak, this guy, you got to think about the fact that pretty early in the fight, he figured out that he was not in the same class as Zabit Magomedsharipov. I mean,
that's got to be demoralizing. You're like, oh, my strategy is not going to work.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where you got two options. One, you just try to grin and bear it and make it through 3 rounds, or you lean in and you go for broke. And this guy, Kyle Bochniak, just went in. There were parts of this fight where he is taking like capoeira kicks. He is taking body kicks. His face is raining blood. His body is marked up.
Waiting for a finishing move to put him out of his misery.
And no, he puts his hands down, sticks his chin out, and tells Magomedsharipov, "Punch me in the face."
Ugh.
And that's what he did. Zabit Magomedsharipov hits him like 3 or 4 times. Dude takes the punches, puts his hands up, and keeps walking forward. In the 3rd round, Bochniak walks forward, just a bloody mess. Puts his hands down, sticks his tongue out at Zabit Magomedsharipov. I mean, if ever there was a scene like the one in Rocky IV where the Russian says he is not human, he is like a piece of iron, Kyle Bochniak was Rocky that night.
That's rock solid. That is
it was unbelievable. Of course, he got beat. I can't believe that someone gave him a round. That was pretty amazing. But it was 30-27, 30-27, 29-28. And Kyle Bochniak went down in history on his shield. It was amazing.
So this isn't one of these where you're like protect the fighter?
No. I mean, the dude was game the whole time, man.
If you're bloody, yeah, I guess if you're still willing to throw your chin out there.
He was throwing his chin out, putting his tongue out, putting his hands down, and then he did what I always tell people: keep your hands up, your chin tucked, and throw. Dude was throwing bombs, like seriously.
You got to swing for the fences.
He was, and had he landed on Zabit, he might have knocked his head off. But at 6'2", that's crazy range.
Crazy range.
So, Renato Moicano defeated Calvin Kattar via unanimous decision. Hey, man, Calvin Kattar the show is a fan of Calvin Kattar. I was all on the hype train. I was like, this guy is going to put it to Moicano.
Picks on that.
Huh?
I know we had some fight picks on that.
Oh, yeah, we picked Calvin Kattar because it was like, hey, he's, we're on the hype train. Dude got whooped.
I'm no longer the Nostradamus of the UFC.
Oh, my goodness. He couldn't get inside. He was trying to get in boxing range, and this guy was throwing Muay Thai kicks, throwing low kicks, throwing elbows. It was Calvin Kattar did not have an answer for this at all, and it showed. Everybody has a bad fight.
I stay on. Yeah, I mean, one fight is not enough to jump off of a hype train, though. It's like, let's give it another fight before I'm ready. Personally, I'm not ready to jump off yet.
I'm not ready either. I like the way he puts his combos together. Let's see what he does next. But it was disappointing to see Renato Moicano just outclass him. I mean, it was not close at all. Co-main event, Rose Namajunas.
Which, in my mind, should have been the main event.
Probably, but, you know.
It was the only one that had real significance.
Well, real significance to us.
Yeah, well, we know the UFC wanted to give the belt away give Conor's belt away at this point, just to make for a better matchup later on. It shouldn't have been a title fight, but Rose versus Joanna, like this had some oomph behind it. Like it was a good matchup stylistically. There was so much talk about it, and Joanna actually stepping back from who she was and not talking as much trash and saying, "Look, I'm focused on this fight." So she had no excuses for the outcome.
So Rose Namajunas defeated Joanna Jędrzejczyk via unanimous decision, 49-46 on all three judges' scorecards. I was pretty sick to my stomach.
Not a fluke. I called it.
I was sick to my stomach. This is highway robbery. I don't know what fight the judges were watching. That's why you cannot leave the fight in the hands of the judges, because Joanna Jędrzejczyk outfought Rose Namajunas that night.
Did she? I mean, the thing is, if Joanna is this killer striker as she claims to be, she should have been able to put Rose away.
Well, you can't always say, the only way that a striker can show their skills is by knocking someone out. That's ridiculous. A striker shows their skills by outstriking their opponent. And what did Joanna Jędrzejczyk do? Joanna Jędrzejczyk outstruck Rose Namajunas 145-105. She outstruck Rose Namajunas in all 5 rounds, and she was more accurate than Rose Namajunas in all but round 2. Yet the judges gave Rose Namajunas a 4-1 victory. I would have been willing to accept 3-2, but absolutely not a 4-1 victory. Clearly, leg kicks do not matter.
All right, yeah.
I mean, Rose Namajunas' leg was so welted up. I mean, it was just one big red mass right around her lead knee, right around the knee of her lead leg. And Joanna, she had no answer for it. Joanna was just teeing away at it. And you know,
she's created a blueprint for someone else to try to defeat Rose, but it won't be Joanna.
Yeah, so I was really disappointed in seeing the 4-1 victory. I would have accepted Rose Namajunas winning a split decision, 3-2, but not a single judge gave more than 1 round to Joanna Jędrzejczyk, and I'm just shocked about that, given what Fight Metric says actually happened in the ring. So I feel bad for my girl. I'm still on the Queen's hype train.
Again, you can't call her the queen.
The queen could be in exile. I mean, that's what it is. There is a usurper on the throne.
Who Joanna doesn't want to try to get back with again.
Oh, absolutely she would.
Fans.
She absolutely would love to get back at Rose.
Rose again.
I will tell you this. Joanna Jędrzejczyk is the best competition Rose is going to face. I think that if Rose could get caught by Jessica Andrade, which is probably her next fight, so the reign of Rose might not last very long. But the fact is, and what was interesting is on the MMA Hour, Ariel Helwani interviewed Rose, and Pat Barry stopped himself short of saying Joanna Jędrzejczyk is the best at strawweight. He was getting ready to say it, and then he realized what that would actually mean, and so he stopped himself short. I don't have the clip. I can get the clip for next week. I can get the clip next week. But he was like, yeah, Joanna Jędrzejczyk is a great fighter. It's like he was the word best. You could hear the B, kind of like when you said that you had ripped up all the ligaments in your left leg, because I remember that. It's your left leg.
I'm so mad that you remember this.
So, Pat Barry was basically saying that, and it's crazy because he stopped.
It's fair to say that Joanna is the best competition you're going to see at strawweight, because that's hands down true. She's the champion and a dominant champion for so long. Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with that statement.
No, but at the same time, his fiance is the current strawweight champion, and the person who holds, who wins the belt, is technically the best. So to say that Joanna Jędrzejczyk is the best would give credence to her complaint that she was robbed at this fight. I think Pat Barry did the right thing in stopping himself short and saying something else. But Rose won. It's official. It's on the scorecard. Congrats to her. She looked great. I got nothing bad to say. Thug Rose.
Thug Rose.
And in the main event, Khabib Nurmagomedov defeated Al Iaquinta via unanimous decision. We expected
Which
that.
was the surprise, though. You got to admit.
What was the surprise?
That Al lasted that long.
Yeah, but the judges' scorecards.
Anyone had him prepared to last 5 rounds with Khabib.
So, I've listened to a lot of interviews with Khabib. And if you look at the judges' scorecard was 50-44, 50-43, and 50-43. If you're not familiar with judges' scorecards in a 5-round fight, a 5-0 victory would be 50-45. So there were 2 rounds that 2 of the judges gave a 10-8, which is which is subtracting a point from Al Iaquinta in addition to him losing the round. And one did it for 1 round. So there were at least 2 10-8 rounds that were scored in this fight. This fight was not close at all. So to say that Al Iaquinta did a great job in lasting 5 rounds is really more asking the question of why did Khabib let this fight go for 5 rounds? And he basically,
like Khabib was kind of playing with him. If you hear some of his post-fight interviews, Khabib was just kind of settled in and actually toying with Al a little bit.
Yeah, and that's what he said. He said that the first 2 rounds he realized he was faster than Al, and I thought it was interesting because he was talking about I don't remember who he was talking to. I think he was talking to Ariel Helwani, and he said, after the second round, I knew that I was faster than him. And so there are things that you don't get to try in the ring. You don't get to experience certain techniques and things at full speed. He said my corner was upset with me because I was going away from the game plan, but I never get to stand up and go full speed stand up in practice. So this gave me an opportunity to stand up with a guy, to test my jab, to test my footwork, and just see what happens. Get some real-time training and experience. And I think that that's fair. I think that that's what he did in rounds 3 and 4.
I could totally see that, but how disheartening for Al to hear these words after, I'm basically just target practice for a guy.
Well, I listened to an interview with Al Iaquinta today too, and he was saying, that he realizes there are things that he could have done to possibly make the fight even more competitive. He said that he did notice that he was a step slower than Khabib. And that Khabib has a great jab. I think that we saw a great jab, but there were times when Al Iaquinta was raging forward, throwing some big shots, and it was disconcerting to see how Khabib lifted his chin as he backed away. And so, somebody with a little more reach might be able to land on that chin, and the chin was not designed to take the type of blows that you get in the UFC.
Well, I know someone who has a little more reach.
Me too. Max Holloway has a little more reach, and my boy El Kakui, Tony Ferguson, has a little more reach, and some crazy Irishman in Dublin, Ireland, has a little more reach.
But you got to believe, as much as it was talked about, and Joe Rogan kind of highlighting these openings, there's no way Khabib comes back the exact same fighter.
Well, if he's evolving, absolutely right. So that's it for UFC 223. Let's turn the page on this one, close the book, and put this on the shelf because this card is history. What is that I hear?
A hype train.
Yes, that's right. I hear a hype train coming.
The hype train.
All right. Well, this is the hype train. This is where we decide whether or not the performances from Friday and Saturday night are worth our punching their ticket and getting on the hype train of some of these fighters, aka the bandwagon. Chris Gruetzemacher, this guy was coming off of a 2-fight losing streak, put it to Joe Lozon, kept him from coming out of the corner. Is this a hype train that you want to get on?
Nope. 2-fight losing streak. I need you to win 2 before I can even consider that.
All right. You know what? I'm not willing to get on his hype train either. The thing is, it was a great fight. Joe Lozon, I don't know what was going on with him, but the fact is that I got to see this guy win some more fights. Get on a 3-fight win streak. Let's see you do some more stuff. If you do this, keep doing this, then absolutely I'm punching a ticket. But for right now, you lost to Artem Lobov. And anybody who loses to Artem Lobov has a lot to prove in order for me to think that they deserve my support on a hype train.
I mean, a 50-50 fighter isn't a notable win?
You know, is he really 50-50? Because he's got one draw. So that puts him, I think that may put him under 50%, right? That may he's like 49.8 or something. I don't know what the math is there. You may have to do the math for me. But, he's got 29 fights with 14 victories. And that would put him under 50%. So, yeah, that's why he needs Conor to fight his battles for him. All right, Zabit Magomedsharipov. Look, I'm not even going to let you respond. I'm punching a ticket for you.
All right.
Punch that ticket. I'm punching my ticket. Let's get on this hype train. This guy, I was talking to George, and we'll talk about George, at the end of the show. But I was talking to George. He called Zabit Magomedsharipov Little Khabib.
That's quite the praise.
Let's go ahead and get on the hype train now. I mean, he's on an 11-fight win streak. Only has like 3 fights in the UFC, but 11 fights in a row. Let's go ahead and get on now.
It's tough when the guy has fought outside the UFC to establish a win streak, because there have been actually, I want to say it was an MMA junkie, but one of the sites, SB Nation maybe had it, where it was some of the top busts, and it seems like the more wins you get outside the UFC, you jump in and you're just not quite ready. But to start stacking the wins in the UFC right now, dude, that is well worth jumping on a hype train.
All right. Kyle Bochniak.
Nah. Just not doing it. Not ready.
Dude, I'm going to punch my ticket. Anybody who's going to be losing the fight and lean forward and make a competitive fight of it, I want to see more of this guy. I'm going to go ahead and punch my ticket, get on that hype train right now. I think he's going to do big things.
I think he'll make for an interesting loss for several people.
All right. Renato Moicano. Put it on, Chris Cater.
Nope.
All right.
I'm not ready to jump on. I mean, jiu-jitsu guys are awesome, but I'm not ready to jump on the hype train yet.
He showed pretty good Muay Thai boxing, kickboxing as well. I'm not ready to jump on him. I hadn't seen him fight before, but I'm not ready to punch my ticket. Let's let that train go by, because I see Iaquinta coming down the tracks.
Yep.
You punching that ticket?
No, not at all.
He stood with Khabib.
Yeah, I mean, congratulations, you didn't die. But I will say that a lot of fighters seem to like him. He's a fighter's fighter, but I'm not a fighter, so okay. I don't have to like him.
Let me remind you one thing. You may have forgotten that Al Iaquinta and Dana White don't see eye to eye.
All right. I kind of like him a little more for that.
Yeah, Dana White and he does they don't get along. And so the fact that they had to turn to him to cover this fight, to give Khabib someone to fight with,
I'm going to need you to explain the Pettis situation to me.
Oh, we're going to do that.
Texting back and forth. I'm like, what happened?
We are going to do that. Once we get to finding the angles, I'm going to go through the whole how Al Iaquinta got the title shot.
Oh, all right. Well, not ready to punch his, but there's one that before we exit the hype train,
yeah,
I'm going to need you to officially just join me on this one.
Okay. Rose
Namajunas. It's time, man. It's time.
Okay.
She got a title defense, man.
I can't.
Oh, my gosh.
I can't join you on the Rose Namajunas hype train. I respect her as a fighter, as a person. I love what she stands for. She is a true martial artist, but she is the thorn in the Joanna Jędrzejczyk side. I cannot.
She's fun to watch. She, to me, is extremely marketable without having to be a jerk to everyone. Man, she's a complete fighter. She can fight you in whatever style you want to fight. She will beat you in. Yo.
No.
Join us.
No.
All right.
Let's see. We'll revisit this after her next fight. We'll see.
Next title defense. If she can't get past Jessica Andrade, who I think is going to be the next fight, if she can't get past her, then I'm not on it. But maybe if she can put on a great show against Jessica Andrade, maybe do better against her than Joanna Jędrzejczyk did, then maybe, you can talk to me. But I don't know that I can be on the Joanna Jędrzejczyk hype train and be on the Rose hype train. For those people out there listening, you got to let me know if that is even, if that breaks the space-time continuum, being on those two hype trains at the same time. It's time to hop off the Joanna one. She's on a 2-fight losing streak.
That's my girl.
Fair enough.
Last one. I don't know that we've ever actually said that we are on the hype train. It's just kind of been implied, but I figured since we're doing a hype train segment, we might as well go ahead and put this one on the list. Khabib Nurmagomedov, the new
I am
lightweight
so
champion
not
of the
on
world.
This hype train.
You're not?
Nope. I mean, for as much talk as, hey, this guy is the baddest man on earth, I don't see it. I see him as very beatable, and have said so for a while. So, he's interesting to watch, but I don't think that he holds that belt for very long. And that belt was given to him. This is another UFC mistake of making a nonsensical title fight when you had a woman who could have headlined this thing and made it real. We just had to keep hyping up Nurmagomedov for no reason.
Yeah, you can't. You got to give him a title shot, though. You can't let him get this close and then say, "Whoops, sorry." So
they would have done that for anyone else.
No, but tradition says that the heavier fighter gets the top billing. And
I think it should have been scrapped altogether. I mean, they had to reach down to number 11 getting a title shot. Come on.
All right.
That
Even though
it should have been scrapped.
It made for a great story, though. It was totally like a Rocky story. You've got the fight. Look. Just so that we can be clear, though, you've got number 11 Al Iaquinta fighting in New York, his hometown, in the most unlikely of matches against someone who is undefeated and seemingly invincible. So this is Rocky 1. And just remember, Rocky lost to Apollo Creed in Rocky 1. Al Iaquinta could be on the Rocky path. Might get another shot at Khabib, and it could be a war and he could win. I'm going to go ahead and predict that Al Iaquinta is going to be one of the Khabib Nurmagomedov challengers who is going to be much closer, because I don't want to rule out Tony Ferguson as the guy that beats that becomes the first person to beat Khabib Nurmagomedov.
There's no way that Ryan means what he says right now, so I apologize to our fans.
All I got to say is this: if Al Iaquinta comes back and becomes the first person to beat Khabib Nurmagomedov, they better make a movie about it.
Oh, yeah, that's not gonna happen. This rematch is pointless. There's no way. There's no way that these two see each other again.
All right. So that's it. That's it for the hype train. All the trains have left the building. Oh, I didn't say whether or not I was on the Khabib hype train. I like him as a fighter. I like him as a person. I like the things he has to say. But once again, I am on the Tony Ferguson El Kukui type train.
We did all of that for you not to join his train. You're the worst.
Dude, you know what? I am loyal. I'm like Conor freaking McGregor. I am loyal to my fighters.
Let's get into that coming up next.
All right, this is the end of the hype train. Let's go right into Finding the Angles.
Finding the Angles.
This is Finding the Angles. This is where we look at the headlines that are making waves in the wake of the events from this weekend. Now, most of this is going to be either about UFC 223 or Conor McGregor or Conor McGregor's impact on UFC 223. Let's just go ahead and get it out of the way.
Conor. Welcome to the Conor Show.
Welcome to the Conor Show. All right, so you wanted to talk about how we got to Al Iaquinta. How did we get number 11 a title shot? So it starts with the fight that was supposed to happen, which was Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Tony Ferguson, El Kukui, for the lightweight title, which, we talked about last week. They had tried 3 times previously, and one of them each pulled out. This was the 4th time. Tony Ferguson tripped over a cable at a Fox studio, tore his LCL, and it was out of the fight 6 days before the event. So the UFC scrambled. Go ahead.
So I kind of felt that it was unfair that Dana White, after this happened, said that he doesn't want to try to make this fight happen again. This isn't on either fighter on this one. Like, you can't hold a grudge against El Kukui for having a freak accident while doing a company-sponsored event.
I think he just said that. I don't think he really means it. It's kind of like, listen, we tried 4 times. This fight's not going to happen. I'm not going to try a 5th time. We say that kind of stuff. But if Tony Ferguson comes back fully healthy, tears somebody apart and becomes the number 1 contender or becomes in striking range of the title, they're going to book that fight because we've been trying to see it since 2015. So the UFC is not will not turn a promotional opportunity down. So now that El Kukui is injured, they had to scramble. They found Max Holloway, 145-pound featherweight champion, to replace him. Now, here's what he told Ariel Helwani after the event was over. Dude he came in there at 190 pounds.
Yeah.
He's fighting at 155.
So there was a lot of talk. Was it Chael Sonnen was talking about the fact that there was talk that he wanted to fight at 170, actually.
Yeah, I think he wanted to fight at 170, but it wouldn't have been for the title. For Khabib, it had to be for the title, so he was trying to make it. And what happened was, so he had 35 pounds to lose in 6 days. Or really 5 days, because, that the weigh-in is the night before. Or the morning before, actually. So I guess that means he only had like 4 days. So he started at around 190 pounds, made it to about 160 or just under 160 before the New York State Athletic Commission said that he was medically unfit to fight. Now, he says that he was still game, that he was in striking distance of 155 at that point, that he could have gone lower, but he was stopped by the New York State Athletic Commission, and he said that he had no qualms with the fact that they made that choice for him. Once again, someone quitting on him even though he was willing to go the distance.
Yep.
So that means that they had to find someone else. So the next person in line was a former lightweight champion in Anthony Pettis. And so Anthony Pettis is like, he didn't know what they were supposed to do. So he made weight, and I think he weighed in at like 156 or something like that, started rehydrating, and then they told him, well, no, you may need to cut weight again. So they put him back in to start cutting weight, and he got all the way down to about 155.2. So he was 155.4, got down to 155.2, and that's when they were like, we don't know what's going on. Let's stop the insanity. So he was out. Now his teammate Paul Felder made weight at 155 pounds. So he was the next one on the list, but the New York State Athletic Commission said that he wasn't ranked high enough to fight for the title. So the only lightweight that was available who was close enough to the 155-pound weight limit was Al Iaquinta, ranked number 11, and he is the one who got the nod, even though he weighed in officially 0.2 pounds over the limit, which means it should not have been a fight for the title.
Oh, see? Tried so hard to make it a title fight. Here's the thing. It just goes to show that showing up is 90% of the battle.
There
just
it is.
Be there.
So here we go. We're going to the next story. Steven Espinoza. Steven Espinoza. Remember that name. He is a Showtime Sports executive. Now, when Conor McGregor from the UFC fought Floyd Mayweather, that was on Showtime Sports. And so there was a falling out between Dana White and Steven Espinoza. And so at the post-fight press conference, they asked him about Steven Espinoza's comments, and Dana called him a slimy rat. Called him a slimy rat twice. Now, why do you think perchance Dana White would call him a slimy rat?
No idea.
Because of something he posted on Twitter. Let me read to you what he posted.
My thought was completely different on the Conor McGregor Mayweather thing.
So after they announced Al Iaquinta at 155.2 pounds, which is not the weight, you have to weigh 155.0 to qualify for a title shot. This is what Steven Espinoza put on Twitter. Quote, "And they claim boxing is lawless. Never heard a boxing match declared a title fight for both fighters, even though one fighter failed to make weight. Congrats, UFC. You far outdone boxing in terms of shadiness. But why bother adhering to rules when you don't feel like it?"
Shots fired. And he's 100% right.
Oh, he goes on.
But wait, there's more. In a follow-up tweet, he says, "I have no issue with the fighters, none at all. My issue is with the organization declaring that almost is good enough on a weigh-in. Hand grenades, horseshoes, and UFC title fights when almost is good enough. You sank my battleship." Wow. That is solid.
He went in, he blew up Dana White in the UFC. I mean, it is like there are sailors jumping off the ship. They are sending life rafts. That is
it's
a torpedo of the highest magnitude.
Because it's so true, but no change will be made about it.
Well, no, because what happened is there was risk, but it was a small risk that we all mathematically knew that Khabib should win this fight. He did make weight at 154.5 pounds, so he qualified for a title shot. What should have happened is the UFC should have said, "Hey, Al Iaquinta, we are sorry that all of this mess happened, but if you win this fight, you cannot be champion." But because they said that they would ignore the ruling of the New York State Athletic Commission and declare Iaquinta the champion if he won, that's what brought about the ire of Steven Espinoza.
And that's why they should have just canceled the fight, given Khabib the belt, because they were going to do it anyway, and just let Rose headline.
Wow, you were really on that. I mean, I don't know if there's enough room on the Rose hype train for me anyway. Feels like you got every
It's not
seat.
even that it's a Rose hype train. It's so anti the featherweight division right now. It's a waste.
Well, you've got two of your biggest stars out. You've got a couple of other stars at lightweight who just either are booked for a fight or they're not able to to get in there. So it's pretty much at a hold, which is why they need Khabib to hold the belt so that they can get that train moving again. So Joe Rogan apologized for his commentary during the Khabib fight. Now, I gotta say, Khabib is straight up gangster. People are starting to kiss the ring already.
Yep.
So Joe Rogan, during the fight, and this is during rounds 3 and 4, said that Khabib had been exposed, that he had holes in his stand-up game, and he accused, and that's when people started accusing him of being biased against Khabib. Now, he wrote an apology. He said, "Make no mistake about it, Khabib won that fight by a landslide, but it went to a decision, and that in and of itself was an upset. When I'm looking at a fighter as spectacularly talented as Khabib fighting a guy like Al, who is almost an impossible underdog, I'm not just looking at this fight, but I'm looking at openings that can possibly be exploited by the best fighters in the division. I saw some of those openings Saturday night, and I certainly found them interesting. In no way am I biased against Khabib. In fact, I'm a massive fan of his, and he's one of my all-time favorite fighters. If any of you were annoyed by concentrating on that aspect of an incredibly dominant performance by one of the most impressive guys in the history of the division, please accept my sincere apology." You know that there is some pressure on Joe Rogan when he feels the need to apologize.
I don't know if it's pressure so much as the dude is a professional. Like, I think that was the right thing to do to kind of push back on the blowback, but he also understands he's there for the fans, and sometimes he's just talking like Joe. And the thing is, for people to be surprised that he's biased, Joe's never pretended not to be biased. Like, he calls the fights the way he sees them. So I think it was the right move, but simultaneously, some people just have to get over it.
Yeah, you know what, though? I can say that when you're in the moment and you see Khabib throw punches and then lift his chin the way he did, those are rookie mistakes, and that's what Joe was commenting on. Is the fact that, oh my God, he's not taking Al Iaquinta down, and in some cases his takedowns got stuffed, and now he's throwing punches and lifting his chin, which is a prime target for knockout. And so that's what he's saying, is like his striking looks amateurish, and in so much as in the moment it makes sense. Now, once you find out that, well, Khabib was testing out a few things, he was looking at trying to get some experience with some of the techniques that they had practiced in class that he just never gets to use, because his game plan is always to take a fighter down and exhaust them with constant pressure. So I see both sides of the story here. I just don't think that Joe Rogan should feel the need to apologize, even if there is some tremendous pressure on him to do so.
Yeah, I think he still handled himself really well, despite everything that's going on around him.
All right. Hey, so something else that I heard, I'm a huge fan of Ariel Helwani's. He's kind of the guy that I look and aspire to be someday, I guess, with regards to the podcast. And so he had Max Holloway on the MMA Hour, and Max Holloway, in addition to telling the story of him cutting weight, he talked about his experience seeing Conor go on the rampage. And you know what he said? He said Conor really didn't want to break anything.
Well, you shouldn't have. Like, no one's making you.
So what he was saying, is Conor went. Let me read the quote that he has. He said, "Imagine if they showed up on media day. That would have been even more wild. I don't think he really meant to break the bus or anything with the dolly. I think he was shocked that he broke it, because when I was watching him, he actually picked up a metal trash can. He put it down, and then he grabbed a plastic trash can and threw that instead. That was after the dolly incident. He was running with the barricades like he knew he was going to get stopped with the barricades.
Well, then one has to beg the question, why do it at all then?
You know, if we were to go back to last week, you were like, Conor McGregor is gaming everybody. This is calculated. This is Conor McGregor making a show. And based upon that particular quote from Max Holloway, who was there to see Conor's reaction when the dolly goes through the window, and
so
then choose...
like, the thing is, you can't take away the fact he chose to throw that dolly.
I don't think he thought that it was going to go through that window. I thought he probably thought that was like plastic glass or something more durable that was just going to bounce off. And when it went through, he was like, "Oh, crap!"
That's not a defense to. Oh, I didn't think that would work.
Well, no, I mean you can't. It's not going to hold up in court. Hey, you know what? Don't send me to jail for 11 years because of the felony charges you have against me. Yeah, he's not going to be able to use that as a defense. But, you know, you were talking...
You're just speaking to motives.
Yeah, but between, you know, we were talking about this, you know, for the listeners out there. Casey and I had a long debate about this one morning after we did the special report. And, you know, you were saying that the defense will talk about that there was not a motive, that it was not his intent to hurt anyone. And based upon what Max Holloway is saying, that's clear evidence that he, after the dolly went through the window, I mean, if he was really intending to create more havoc that was designed to destroy, he would have thrown the metal trash can. But for him to put the metal trash can
from it?
No, someone stopped him from throwing the barricade, but he's like, he should have known that no one was going to let him throw the barricade. And, you know, and that's why Khabib was saying that on the bus, Conor knew that there was security on the bus and they weren't going to let them off the bus anyway. I mean, how many of these shows has Conor gone to? He knows the policy. He knows what goes on behind the scenes.
I love the thought that you've got pretty much trained killers on a bus who are guarded.
What?
By security guards. Like, I feel like whatever the security guard could do, these fighters could do a better job of protecting themselves. Well, it's completely just apropos to nothing. It's just a random thought that every time I think about the security that's walking out with the fighters, I'm like, yeah, I think they got this covered, man.
All right. So last thing on Conor McGregor and UFC 223. You know, there's a lot of people who came out in support of Conor McGregor saying that he was justified.
Crazy.
He was justified in flying 20 guys across the Atlantic Ocean in a charter jet from Dublin to Brooklyn for the sole purpose of wrecking shop at Media Day for UFC 223. Nate Diaz had his back. Michael Bisping had his back. And then a couple of people who, you know, it doesn't matter, but Travis Barker and known violent person Chris Brown had Conor McGregor's back.
So what you're saying is people who have what could be classified as personality disorders are supporting Conor. So that's a great group of people.
It begs the question. And, well, you know, in talking to George definitely played the devil's advocate and said that
the devil doesn't need an advocate. He's bad enough on his own.
It's honorable to stand up for your friend.
No, not in this manner. You can't justify that, because if it's force for force, no one was injured in Khabib confronting Artem. No one.
It's true, but no one. There was no intent to injure anyone in the retaliation either. It just happened.
Okay.
So, you know, I think it begs the question, is it honorable to stand up for a friend? You know,
No.
Was the intent to defend Artem Lobov's honor, you know, to protect the sanctity?
The guy who started talking first. I don't know. Like, you're my friend. Real talk. If we're in a situation where you're talking trash to someone and you start getting beat, that's on you. I am not protecting you.
Well, that's good to know. Even though
if you start a fight and can't back it up, then that is on you. If you choose to walk into a group of 20 people and don't have an exit strategy, there's no need in both of us dying.
That's fair. I mean, at that point, yeah, I wouldn't have your back either. I'd be trying. My having your back would be like, don't do it. Don't do it.
Let me be the one to survive this and tell your story.
Yeah. So, but there's a lot of people out there who felt like Conor McGregor was justified. Even Dana White, who came out and said the right thing, last week, has kind of scaled back his comments and, is communicating that he understands why Conor did it, which is one step away from condoning what Conor McGregor did. But, there it is. Hey, let's get off of this and talk about UFC 225. That is the fight card in Chicago. I think that card could potentially rival UFC 223. It's a strong card. Even though the first fight of the night, not the main card, I'm talking about the first fight of the prelims. The first fight when the arena is empty. There are two fighters that are fighting. They're both 0-1, but one has way more celebrity than the other. You know who that is?
CM Punk.
CM Punk. Former WWE professional wrestler turned MMA fighter who got destroyed by Mickey Gall I don't know how long ago, at least a year and a half ago. He's finally back. Now. He's finally back facing Mike the Truth Johnson, who is also 0-1, who also lost to Mickey Gall, who also lost by submission with a rear naked choke. So it's basically two guys with the same career, but one guy is supremely more popular than the other.
Yeah, I guess the only interest I have in that is to see if the hype around CM Punk, the second time around, it's less so that, hey, this could be a real thing. And I just want to see what improvements he's made, if any.
Well, you're going to have to get up early and start watching the fights way early because it is the first card on the first fight on the card. So, yeah, like just be prepared. Set your alarm, have some reminders, start recording 45 minutes before the show was supposed to start. Colby Covington versus Rafael dos Anjos, which was supposed to be in Brazil until they found out that there were people who were putting hits on Colby Covington and willing to pay assassins to take him out. They moved that fight to Chicago. I don't know if it's much safer in Chicago, but it is at least safer for Colby Covington.
I just wonder why that was even an option in the first place.
To have him fight in Brazil?
Yeah, that was just a disaster waiting to happen.
Well, because the UFC is doing their job in finding a way to promote a fight. I mean, like I said before, the quotes that he said to Brazil and about Brazil, having him go back to Brazil and fight a Brazilian,
I think this is kind of goes back to me being all about the spirit of martial arts versus I don't want a reality show. That's why I don't tune into Tough as much. Like, I actually care about the fighting and all the other peripheral stuff. Take it or leave it. Leave it.
One more big fight in that card is Holly Holm. She's coming back. She's fighting Megan Anderson, who is the Invicta 145-pound champion. If Megan Anderson wins this fight, that puts her and Chris Cyborg on a collision course. It won't happen at International Fight Week, but that would be a great fight.
I'm torn on this one because I kind of want both of them to win. Like, Megan Anderson's, the work she's put in to get to where she's at, that's a story in and of itself. And, of course, you want to see I want to see Holly Holm kind of regain her throne or just kind of work back up. So, man, either one of those makes for a great story going forward.
Absolutely. So we'll see what happens with that fight. That's coming up June 9th, UFC in Chicago. Hey, ever heard of...
I don't want to mix the 14th, though. Have you seen the fight card for the 14th?
The 14th of...
Of April. You've got Poirier versus Gaethje.
Yeah, we're doing that. We're doing that in the... we're doing that in the fight card. UFC on Fox 29.
All righty.
Why you jumping ahead?
I get excited. This one's a dope card. We were talking about cards.
All right. Nick Diaz, he's coming off suspension. This guy can get to fight again April 19th. Some people are reporting April 20th because April 20th, given the fact that he's on suspension for a certain illegal.
Oh, that would be amazing. And then he gets popped again immediately.
Yeah, so he could potentially be back in the UFC, ready to fight 420.
So a lot of people are very excited to see him back. And some kind of go back to his fight with Silva when he coming back there. Am I the only one who doesn't care about Diaz anymore? Like, these guys have been fighting forever.
Yeah, you were the only one who doesn't care about Nick Diaz.
Oh, man.
Everybody is getting really excited about him coming back. So, we'll see what happens.
I could be interested. But there's no opponents lined up, and we don't know how fight ready he is, though, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, we don't know, but they stay ready. They're triathletes. They stay ready. Like, unlike Conor McGregor, who says he stays ready, but then doesn't show up except whenever he wants to wreck something, the Diaz brothers actually do stay ready. They could fight any day, any time. Like, we call up Nate Diaz right now. Dude's ready to fight.
I actually fully believe that one.
So Colby Covington got into it with the next pay-per-view, UFC 224 headliner Raquel Pennington. Colby Covington got into it with her.
What? All right, I haven't seen this. What's the story here?
All right, so Pennington, at UFC 223, this is the 25-year anniversary for the UFC, so they've got all of these additional media obligations for their champions that they're doing. They rang the New York Stock Exchange bell, all kinds of stuff like that.
Yep.
Well, they had this big champions and press conference, and Colby Covington got into it with Kamaru Usman. We talked about it last week. Mm-hmm. Well, Pennington says she didn't like Colby Covington's trash talk, and he said that she's just mad because her wife, Tisha Torres, the Tiny Tornado, was attracted to him at American Top Team, and she knew it.
This is, again, his thing, like, wives, girlfriends, significant others, all out of bounds, man. This is why there has to be this notion of trash talking has no bounds. It's dangerous.
It's Colby Covington trying to channel his inner Conor, and it's failing. But I do have to say, as a professional trash talker myself, even a blind dog finds a bone, every once in a while. And Colby Covington, he said, "Who is Raquel Pennington? What is she? 9-5 in the weakest division in the UFC? Let me tell you the real reason Raquel Pennington is mad at me. She's mad at me because her wife, when she was at American Top Team, Tisha Torres, was always googly-eyed over me, staring at me across the mats. She must have walked in on her wife one day looking at my Instagram because I'm so sexy. American, raw steel, and sex appeal. There's the real reason. She's not mad at what I said at the press conference. She's mad that her wife has googly eyes for me."
Savage.
That's
absolutely
dude,
savage.
I'm just saying, a blind dog, a broken clock is right twice a day. Colby Covington, well played, sir.
I refuse to give you that acknowledgement, Colby. You're still a garbage person.
All right, he is a garbage person. But last one for this segment, Ronda Rousey.
What?
She won her first match at WrestleMania 34 in New Orleans. You know what? I really
Sadly,
didn't.
I kind of saw this.
I didn't see that one coming. I mean, because it's so spontaneous, the action in the ring, that Ronda Rousey, the single biggest acquisition for the WWE on the biggest stage for the WWE calendar, in the main event of the evening, she won her fight. Did you see that coming? I wonder what the Vegas odds of that was.
Dude, do they do Vegas odds for that?
There's no way they do Vegas odds for that.
Oh man, that'd be nuts.
Okay, so it was a tag team match. Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey. And by the way, these are people that when I was much younger, like 20 years younger, were still fighting. Like Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey defeated Triple H and his wife, Stephanie McMahon. Ronda Rousey won by armbar. Go figure.
Yeah. No way.
But I watched highlights, and I found a copy of the video somewhere on the interwebs, and I actually watched part of the fight, which was a long fight, so I just kind of fast forwarded.
Oh yeah, I didn't watch the whole fight. I just saw her striking capabilities.
Yeah, well, she got Stephanie McMahon in the corner. Did some combos on her. I was actually fairly impressed by Ronda Rousey's ability to take a bump, do the rolls and the flips, and she is really athletic. I'm going to give it to her. She looked great out there, but it's still hard for me to suspend my disbelief when she had Stephanie McMahon in the armbar, and I'm looking at it going, that's not a correct armbar. That's not an armbar. Her arm is bent. That's not an armbar. That's what I can't. I've seen.
You're supposed to oppose the thumb.
I'm an MMA fan. So when I see someone doing MMA techniques in a professional wrestling environment, I can't suspend my disbelief because it looks fake. That is not the proper technique.
Well, don't worry.
But
we don't have to watch that.
Ronda
got the real deal.
Ronda did well. I'm going to just put it out there. This may be the last time we talk about Ronda Rousey, unless she comes back to the UFC, which I'm hoping she doesn't.
It's the last time we'll talk about Ronda Rousey.
It's not. You know us. But that's it for this segment. I want to do a quick segment of fighter callouts. There's some interesting callouts that took place, so let's go ahead and knock those out real quick.
Fighter callouts.
So this is the fighter call-out segment. This is where fighters who win their fights choose to call out somebody else, and sometimes it's controversial, sometimes it's interesting, and sometimes it's just plain ridiculous. With Nick Diaz coming back, there's two fighters that are calling out Nick Diaz, Eddie Alvarez and Kevin the Motown Phenom Lee. Would you be interested in seeing one of these guys fight Nick Diaz?
Alvarez, yes. Kevin Lee, he's like so many people on Instagram and Twitter said, dude, you're not ready for that. You're not ready for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think Eddie Alvarez has the inside track on, getting that Nick Diaz fight. So, let's keep our eye on that. Karolina Kowalkiewicz, one of my favorite names to say, called out Claudia Gadelha, at the end of her fight. I think that's a good one.
Yep. Claudia for that.
Yeah, that's going to be a good fight. Zabit Magomedsharipov called out Yair Rodriguez. He is known as Panteras from Mexico City. This would be an electric fight because both of them are really talented strikers. I think that makes for a good fight. Yair's not ranked too highly, so you can see that Zabit is really trying to climb the ladder with a methodical pace. I like that fight as well. After Khabib won that fight, he called out GSP, George St. Pierre. He didn't call out Conor. He didn't call out Tony Ferguson. He called out George St. Pierre.
And this is why, I know. I would love to see fighters defend first, but we know that division's a little shaken up right now. So I feel like that was a nonsensical call out because there's no way GSP takes that fight.
Well, Ariel Helwani was he's got George St. Pierre on speed dial because they're both Canadian, right? Yeah. And so George St. Pierre, he was like at the post-fight press conference, and they were asking Khabib about fighting George St. Pierre, and Ariel Helwani is like, so I've already spoken to George St. Pierre, and he said that you've got some work to do cleaning out the 155-pound division before he'll come down and make 155 and take the belt from you or fight you for the belt. Yeah, George St. Pierre, it feels just like you. You got to defend that belt. You got to show that you're a champ before I'm going to come down and try to challenge you for it.
I love it when I'm right.
Last one, Khabib, because of the nonsensical call out with George St. Pierre, also called out Conor, and he called Conor the Burger King. He called him chicken. He called him all kinds of stuff. But I thought it was interesting that what he said on UFC Tonight, or whatever the name of that show is on Fox Sports 1 with Karen Bryant and Rashad Evans. He said, Connor, like I say before, we're going to make him humble. He and his oaf, he's talking about Lobov, I slap him anywhere, anytime, inside the cage, also outside the cage. I am here. If somebody wants to find me, let's go. That's a much better call out. I like that.
I don't love it because it's not realistic. You guys aren't going to fight outside of the octagon. Just be real with it.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it for the fighter callouts. Let's get into the last segment of the night. That is the fight card. All right, this is the fight card where we look at the fights that are coming up this weekend. And so, like you were saying before, Bellator 197 is coming to us live from St. Louis, Missouri, the Family Arena. Michael Chandler versus Brandon Gertz. I know you're excited about that. That's what you were really, really wanting to talk about, right?
Nope.
All right. Well, that is the main event for the Bellator card. Good luck, Michael Chandler. Good luck, Brandon Gertz. We'll check up on you on our next recording.
Gertz wins this. Just want to throw this out there. 100% Team Gertz.
Yeah, Michael Chandler for the win. I think it's going to be a stoppage. UFC on Fox 29, Glendale, Arizona, the Gila River Arena. This is the card you were excited about.
Yes.
All right, you got Michelle Waterson versus Courtney Casey. You got Marvin Vittori versus Israel Adesanya.
My man.
What's his nickname is like Styles Changer.
Style Bender.
Style Bender. Like that guy is exciting to watch.
I love this dude because all the comparisons to the fighters that he has, and he's humble about it, but he's like, look, I'm not the next John Jones. I'm me. I'm doing what I do best. And with the 12-0 record, he absolutely is doing what he does best.
And that's win. Oh, my gosh. Stylebender is such a great name for him. He's an electric fighter. It is fun to watch. That is going to be the one. I think he is coming back with a performance bonus with a win over Marvin Vittori. Alex Cowboy Oliveira, he's a Brazilian fighter, is replacing the immortal Matt Brown in his fight against Carlos Condit, which it may be the swan song for Carlos Condit.
At number 12, not ideal for him to keep trying.
He's on a bit of a losing streak. And this is not an easy fight. Alex Oliveira is quite the game fighter. So I'm looking forward to this. I think Carlos Condit pulls out a win, though, because this is a short fight replacement. And you know that late fight replacements don't necessarily score very well. They don't perform very well. And then in the main event, Justin Gaethje versus Dustin Poirier. The Diamond.
I am always going to be Team Poirier.
You are. You have been in
From
that
the
corner.
Start.
Yes.
I truly do believe he would have beat Conor.
Yeah.
Minus the punch to the back of the head.
Which he moved his head.
It
was accidental. It was not intentional.
This is 100% true, but I'm still Team Poirier.
All right. Well, if you're picking Poirier, I'll go with Gaethje. We'll see what happens next week. You have anything else?
I just apologies to Justin for you picking him because this is the Joanna curse about to go down.
All right. Well, that's it. Follow us on social media. On Twitter, I'm at CST Ryan.
And I am at CSTKC.
You forgot the underscore?
Dang it.
Not that it matters because you don't tweet that much on that. Instagram, it's all about push, pull, pray, right?
Yes. Push, pull, pray, guys.
You can check out our website at www.combatsportstalk.com. We've added some new sections. So, first of all, we added a live event section. So I keep mentioning George Stallworth. So, on live events, we actually take the podcast rig over to the place where we go and watch the fights, and we give live reactions on the action. So I've got UFC 223, our reactions on that fight. I'm going to be posting it with this particular event as well. So go and check out the live events. I'm interested in getting your feedback on that, just because it's a live event. You remember when you and I tried to do a live event? We end up watching the fights, and so there are lags in the conversation. So
you're just going to hear a lot of audio from the TV.
Yeah,
as I'm just locked in.
So, but we have some really good conversations between rounds and between fights, and so I guess it's kind of one that you just listen to very quickly and kind of skip through and just see what kind of conversations come through. But I'm really trying to crack the nut on making those building content for you that is live and reactions during the fights. So check that out. We've also got a merchandise site. We are on Amazon merchandise now, Amazon merch. And so we've got our original logo tee up there right now. We're going to be putting some more designs up there soon. And so check us out. All you got to do is go to Amazon and search for Combat Sports Talk, and you'll see our original logo tee. So you can find us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Facebook, and Instagram. I'm at Combat Sports Talk, and KC is at Push Pull Pray. All right, let's get out of here. Our theme music is composed by Scott McCurry at scottdeancountry.com. KC Onyebuchi produced our lead-ins. I want to thank you for joining us for another edition of Combat Sports Talk. For KC Onyebuchi, I'm Ryan Smith, reminding you to keep your hands up, your chin tucked, and throw bombs.